So about a year ago, I introduced you guys to a tool called Veras for Revit. In that video, I talked about how Veras was a great inspiration and idea starter in your design process. One of the issues that I've had with tools like Midjourney and DALL-E and even Veras a year ago is that you kind of didn't know what you were going to get. So they were great for inspiration, ideas, kickstarting, and trying things out. But even when you tied them to your own renderings or image exports of your own drawings or models, the geometry retention of your design and the digital output was just not there. So if you've tried out Midjourney and DALL-E and even Veras and you were frustrated with the fact that you didn't really know what you were going to get, wait until you see what I'm going to show you today. So in today's video, I'm going to show you Project Veras a year later and some of the incredible features that have been added. So I'm going to go through 3 examples. One is an exterior, one is an interior, and one is an exterior with little to no materials applied of projects that I have, and show you the new features of Veras and how they're absolutely going to change the way that you render and design your projects. So let's jump in. And the first project that I'm going to talk about is Rocky Mountain Modern. Some of you may recognize this project from my channel. This project, I'm going to do an exterior rendering and maybe an interior rendering. What's interesting about this project is this one has materials applied. What we're going to do here is we're going to use some of the new functions of Veras and show you that when you already have all of these textures applied to your model, how it actually is now essentially a rendering engine. It's actually incredible. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do an exterior set of renderings, AI generated renderings, and then we're going to do an interior set. So here I am in an elevation view. It's a 3D elevation. So this is a camera view. It's a 3D elevation. You can see I have textures already applied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch Veras. Okay, now let's launch. So what you'll see is there's actually a couple new tabs on the top here. There's Explore, Compose, and Refine. Explore actually has a bunch of pre-built prompts in here, which is pretty cool. So you see it says modern design with large windows, etc. So if you don't even feel like typing in your own prompts, you can set your width and your height to match your scene. So I'm going to set my width and height to match it, and then you can click one of these and just let it go to town. We're not going to do that. We're going to go over to Compose, and I'm going to adjust my width to be as max as I can. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to notice is right here. Okay. This is actually the game changer. This slider that you see right here, the slider, it says geometry override. So we have the option to not maintain our existing geometry or maintain our existing geometry just by changing the slider, okay? But then we're gonna do a material override of 100. And I'm gonna say turbo nature because it's exterior. So now I'm gonna prompt, okay? My prompt is gonna be modern house, stone walls, timber joists, rocky mountain hillside. Make sure I spelled everything correctly there. Okay, I'm gonna actually pump out 3 of these renderings, and I'm gonna keep the prompt strength to 60. Okay, so now you can see geometry override is 0, material override 100, the width, the height. I'm doing turbo nature, and then modern house, stone walls, timber joists, rocky mountain hillside. I'm gonna click render. Okay, so in about 47 seconds, I have 3 renderings done. And what you'll notice as I flip through these is that pretty much my house is my house. The geometry retention, you look at even the structural supports over here, the wall, the windows, the mullions, it's all there. And all it's doing is changing the materiality and flipping through it. So it's iterating through a prompt, but it's maintaining your geometry. And, you know, it's doing a pretty damn good job at it. If you look at this one right here, yeah, if you zoom in and look at some of the details, right, you're going to see that it's a stitched together AI image, but it's doing a pretty damn good job with reflections and shading and the windows and the materials and the scaling of the materials and recognizing all the architectural geometry of it. Pretty cool. So in 47 seconds, I had 3 completely unique renderings, maintaining my geometry, but playing with the materiality, with the feeling, the atmosphere, the ambiance of the scene to even further enhance my design process. So let's quickly run inside and do an interior. I'm going to show you another new feature that will blow your mind on the inside. So let's jump inside. I'm going to open up this master bedroom view. So again, We have textures already in this project, so we're kind of using this more as a rendering engine. Okay, because we already had this, I'm going to go click on the top here. I'm going to say show original image. And by clicking show original image, it's going to update the view. And so I'm going to change the height and the width of this now. So I got to sort of match what I have there. So you can see I want to crank up the height and the width. Let's get some of those walls in there. Okay, so 1660, whatever. So what we're going to do here is, you can see I'm going to keep the geometry override at 0. I want to maintain my bedroom geometry. And I'm going to click is interior. I'm not going to use turbo nature. And then for my prompt, I'm going to say modern house, stone walls, timber joists. So similar prompt, rocky, mountain, hill, side, outside. So I'm telling it that outside is a rocky mountain hillside. And I'm going to say golden hour for the sunlight. So golden hour. In case you guys didn't know, in Midjourney, DALL-E, and in Veras, golden hour is just like the perfect sunlight for pretty much every image. Like if you say golden hour, you're going to get beautiful lighting. It's just a thing. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 renderings of that, and I'm going to click render. All right, so just like that, in 44 seconds, we have these 3 images. And you'll notice that they feel different, but not too different. But you'll notice they're actually retaining a majority of the geometry, if not all of the geometry. Okay, so I'm just going to click through these so you can kind of see what's going on there. And I mean, look at the bed. They added nice textures there. I mean, it looks good. It's got a rendered feel to it. Notice how the lighting coming in the windows. It's got a background that looks pretty realistic. It's got, you know, this reflections and these lights that it's trying to put down and all that good stuff. So pretty cool, right? So what's the new feature? The new feature is now we've got this rendered image that we're playing with. And now I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, I want to play with some different ideas in the ceiling here. Okay. So instead of jumping into Revit, changing the material, or re-rendering this whole thing and potentially adding a prompt that says like ceiling joist to be white, or I don't know, whatever, I can click refine up here. And then there's this little pencil tool. And so what I can do now is I can draw an area of my image. So I'm going to go like this. And I'm just going to highlight the ceiling for now. Okay. And then in the prompt, I'm going to change this to, let's say, all white painted ceiling. And for this, I'm only going to do 2. And interior is good. I'm going to click render selection. Okay. So now let me remove my selection, and you can see what it did is now it started playing with that ceiling and changing the materials based on a prompt. Okay, so let's see what else we can prompt with that. If I hit the pencil tool, now I'm going to select the bed and the nightstand here. I'm just going to do a quick highlight of that. If I wanted to, I could sit there and really refine this selection, but it does a pretty good job blending, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so now I've selected the bed, and I'm going to say mid-century. So we're just going to say mid-century modern bed. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the geometry override to something like 60, so that we can say, okay, it's all right to change the geometry of this bed. I'm okay with that. Let's see what it does. And then I'm going to render 2 of those. All right, so if I remove the refinery, you can see now we're actually flipping through multiple different, yeah, I'm flipping through the ceiling there. Multiple bed options there. See that? So by modifying the geometry override, you can actually start playing with some of your actual geometry to play with ideas within it, which is pretty cool. So the refine tool is pretty sweet, right? So you have the ability now to almost render your scenes using AI in 40 seconds or so. You have the ability to iterate through different options and see how that looks. And then you have the ability to now refine certain areas to play with ideas. So it's this give and take of a rendering tool as well as an inspiration tool, and pretty powerful when you think about it. So that's with a project that has materials all set up. So you're giving the AI, you're giving the machine, right, a lot of direction when it comes to that, okay? And that's why you're getting more realistic renderings like that. And you're getting more of what you expect. I had stone, I had wood, I had metal, I had all of that applied. So it's really easy when you say, hey, stone exterior, wood cladding, rusted metal. The computer, the AI, knows where to pick out those things. Okay, so let's say we're earlier in the design process and maybe we don't have all the textures applied, but maybe we have a general idea of a color scheme or something. So in this example, what I'm going to do is use a project where I don't have any textures applied. I just have shading applied, so just colors. And then we're going to see what this does. And we're going to use it as a rendering tool in that sense. So on this project, you could see it's a house. It's a decent model. It's got stuff, but this is probably more like schematic design. You'll see there's some ideas of materials, right? This is a white shake siding. This is a black vertical wood siding. This is a wood material here, right? So the idea is there, but none of these have textures yet. But you'll see here, I have enough to give the idea in my shaded views, which takes a lot less work because as we all know, textures in Revit suck to apply. And so I just have the idea of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to a view like this, which is kind of like the front view. I'm going to Veras, refresh my view, go to compose. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a rendering engine, but we're going to use it to fill in those textures. So I'm just going to slide my height and my width to get it to something that I like. Okay, not bad. We're going to do geometry override all the way down. We're going to do turbo nature for exterior. And in here, what we're going to say is we're going to say modern farmhouse exterior architectural rendering, vertical black wood siding, horizontal white wood siding. So we're basically telling the machine now, when you see these colors, I want you to sort of input a texture for me. So it's gonna try to figure out what I'm trying to say here, okay? And then we'll say stained wood structure at front porch, and then we'll say dense forest background, and of course we'll do a little golden hour here because why not? For this one, I'm gonna pump out 4, just because let's see as many as we can get, and then we're just gonna click run. All right, so that took about 50 seconds. But it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to flip through the 4 options. So you can see here's one here. This one did a pretty good job. I'm not a huge fan of how it made this part white and this part wood, but you could see it retained most of the geometry, kind of trying to figure out in the corner here. But it also made this nice forest background, which feels really nice. And of course, you got your golden hour sun behind us or in front of us. This one, decent image. Again, I'm not sure what it did with the columns. I'm not sure why I made all the columns white. Maybe I should change the prompt there. And here too, it's doing some standing seam, which is kind of nice. Pretty modern farmhouse style sort of thing there. This one's probably my favorite. This is really cool. So you can see what it did here is it did a decent job figuring out the horizontal white, although it made this one vertical, the vertical black. It did all the wood. I love how it added this out of focus foreground planting, and then some background too. That, I mean, it's passable as a rendering. I mean, obviously, if you zoom in, and you start looking at it, it's one thing, but it's passable and it looks good. It's got a great look and feel to it. The lighting is decent, right? And that was with me not adding any texture, but notice how it's keeping the flavor of my design. It's keeping the concept of it. And of course, if we wanted to, we can refine some of this as well. So that's pretty epic, right? I mean, all I did was add shading colors, like shaded colors. That's it, and texture. So I'm making my Revit drawings, adding shading. I'm not even dealing with the actual custom textures, and I'm able to start playing with this idea of renderings, assigning materials. I can play with different materials. If I said dark gray, if I said blue, blue darker siding, it probably would replace it. And so even though I'm not assigning textures, I'm still driving the AI to make assumptions based on what's there. So then I thought to myself, well, this tool has come so far as geometry retention and then rendering, making those renderings look hyper realistic. What if we didn't have any textures? Can we make a rendered scene with 0 textures, and will it retain my initial ideas and concepts and designs? Well, let's find out. All right, so this is an office, okay? So it has furniture, it's a detailed model, but we don't have any textures applied. We don't even have any shading applied. This is a hidden line view. So in reality, I could have pretty much assigned 0 materials for it. But let's see how Veras can render this scene with just what you're seeing here. We're gonna refresh our view. Here we go. We're gonna adjust the width and the height so it's the way I want. Okay, this is going to be is interior. We're going to turn off turbo nature. I'm going to leave geometry down, material up, and we're going to say modern office, modern open office rendering. That would say modern open office. Let's do polished concrete floors, white ceiling structure. Let's say orange. Let's say dark orange leather couches, gray walls, office buildings in the background. Okay, let's see what this does. So I'm going to do 3 options here, and we're going to run this. 36 seconds later, check this out. So here's one of the solutions, here's another one, and here's another one. This one looks really cool. So what you'll see is we've got, it recognized the structure separate from some of the MEPs. The polished concrete floor looks pretty darn good. Even the reflection of the chairs and stuff. This orange leather couches and stuff, I mean, that's pretty cool looking. They did a concrete wall here, which is pretty neat. Wasn't expecting that, but it actually looks kind of nice. Let's check this one out here. Oh, this one's kind of got some black ottomans here. The reflection from the concrete. There's a sense of realism to these things, right? You can see the chairs. Check out the chairs in the conference room. Like those look really, really neat. Like super neat. I mean, if I flip this off, we could look at the original, right? I mean, that's pretty damn impressive, I have to say. Okay, so now using that new refine tool, what we can do is we can do things like modify some materials, play with some different furniture ideas, you know, whatever it is that we want to do. So if I wanted to, I don't know, change this flooring from polished concrete to something else, let's see. So I'm just going to select this whole floor down here, and I'm going to change this to gray carpet tile. And we'll do 2 of those and click render. Okay, so if I remove the selection, you could see it actually added a gray carpet tile there instead. So now I can go from my original one to this gray one. I can start playing with that idea, playing with my design, and iterating through different inspiration ideas. Pretty cool, right? That was a hidden line white model, right? There was no textures applied to anything. And you could see the depth of what was there while still retaining my design idea. And that's always been the issue with AI image generation, right? Is not really knowing what you're going to get or playing with thousands and thousands of prompts until you get something that you like. The very last thing I wanted to mention before we head out is something you're probably thinking to yourself is, okay, that's great. What if I want to produce a rendering of a different view that looks the same? Well, that's the last feature that I wanted to show you that they added to Project Veras, which helps you duplicate the look and feel in different areas of the scene or even on different projects, and that's called seeding. So let me just show you what that looks like. So if we take this example here and we check the box for seed, okay, so you can see it says seed there. Okay, if I copy this 8151672, etc., right? Okay, so I'm going to go to this view right here, which same office, just a different view set of it. I'm going to go over to my Veras. I'm going to go back to compose. I'm going to hit refresh my view and show the original. So here we go, refresh the view. Yep. Okay, change my height, try to get as much of this scene as I want here. Okay. Now you'll notice it says seed right here, right? And so the seed, it maintained the seed. If you want, you can copy and paste the number, doesn't really matter. But it says seed. Okay, so it has the same information, but it also has the seed. So now if I click render, so in about 36 seconds, I've got 3 images, and you can see they all basically look like that original image. So let me jump back to that original, the seed image now, which was right here. Right, so here's our seed image, and then here's our secondary render. So you could see it's actually, it's a rendering of a different part of the space, but it's looking very similar to the original one. And you could always jump back to the other view and re-render it using the seed and so on and so forth. But now you're getting consistent examples across it. So when you find a prompt that's working for you or something that you're liking the results for, and maybe you want to do some more iterations or you want to do some more design, some geometry changes, change the view, now you have the ability to basically re-render that almost, which is pretty cool, right? So somehow this is becoming a rendering engine on top of all of the other neat features that it has to enhance your design process. So if you're feeling really jazzed up and inspired by this, be sure to check out the other 2 videos on my channel about this tool. One is an interview with the creators of Veras, and the other one is from a year ago, in which I really talk about the idea of prompting and the concept behind directing this tool to do what you want. Thanks everyone, and have an awesome day.